The road north led us to one of Africa's great wildernesses, Etosha National Park. For 2 days, we roamed across a sea of pale salt and golden grass, where the horizon seemed to melt into the sky. The vast Etosha Pan stretched like a dried-up ocean, silent except for the rustle of wind and the distant call of birds. Then came the moments you dream of on a safari. A massive herd of zebra moving like a living pattern across the plain. 3 cheetahs peeking through the tall grass. And 7 elusive rhinos emerging from the dusk. In a place where nature still rules, every turn of the track felt like a new discovery. And here's how it went. Good morning, guys. It is our 16th day on the expedition here, coming up the west coast of Africa. And yesterday was just a very long drive day. We had about 400 kilometers that we had to cover, but mostly dirt roads. So it was pretty slow going with the truck, but especially that drive coming out of Spitzkop was just one of the most beautiful drives with the mountains in the background there. And then we drove as close to Etosha as we could get to. Today, we're probably about 50 kilometers from the border of Etosha here. And we ended up bush camping here just on the side of like a country road out in the absolute middle of nowhere. And this morning we're just kind of having a slow morning as we wake up because our access to Etosha doesn't start until about 11 or 12 today. So eventually we're going to pack up the truck here and we're going to slowly roll into Etosha, and from there we're going to start our game drive. And Etosha is one of the big national parks here where you're going to be able to see a lot of the wildlife, and I know that they have most of the big 5 there, so there's potential to see rhinos. There's potential to see cheetahs, buffalo, giraffe, zebra, lion. So, I mean, it's going to be a game drive and we're in this big yellow truck. So I'm not sure what exactly we'll be seeing in Etosha, but we're going to have 48 hours in the park. So yeah, let's pack up the truck. Just about 11 and we have just entered the Etosha National Park here, and it was a beautiful drive, just driving through all of this nature. And we did see a couple giraffe and zebra way off in the distance. Going to be driving through the park here most of the afternoon as we head to our campsite. So yeah, going to keep our eyes peeled and hopefully we'll be spotting some animals pretty shortly. But yeah, one of the best parts about going on safari in Africa is you just never know what you're gonna see, and no 2 experiences are the same. And I've come to Etosha a few times in the past here, and this could be just a completely different experience. Anyways, let's cruise through the park and see what animals and wildlife are waiting for us here in Etosha. We've been driving through the park for about 15-20 minutes or so, and we've seen a few ground squirrels, 1 wildebeest, but our first main sighting here is 2 giraffes. It looks like a mom giraffe and a baby giraffe, and they're just walking perpendicular across our truck here against the savanna. It's beautiful. We have just driven about an hour through the park and we've made it to the first little campsite here of Okaukuejo, which is where we're going to be paying for our entrance to the park. And there's like a campsite here. I don't think this is where we're camping tonight, but right as you enter the gate here, there's this like castle looking tower. So I'm just going to climb up that to get a nice 360-degree view of the Etosha National Park. So yeah. I have just made it into the top of the tower here. We're probably about 4 or 5 stories high, and we just have this 360-degree view overlooking the Etosha Pan here. It's actually pretty remarkable how flat this land is. From here, we can see a couple, like a herd of zebra off that way, and we can see a bunch of other animals down at the watering hole down there. But yeah, gonna take in some of the views here of Etosha, then we'll jump back in the car and continue on with the game drive. Just as we were leaving the camp there, we've just come across a ton of zebra that are just walking alongside the truck here, and then we had a bunch of wildebeest on the other side. Alright, we've just come a little further and we've seen a few of these sentry birds, which look like storks, and a lot of like impala, and then we just saw 3 ostriches run across the road and then run off that way. Yeah, lots of wildlife. Alright guys, we are driving by a massive herd of zebra right now, just so big. As we were coming down to the water hole, we just saw off in the distance this huge like puff of smoke and dust kicking up from the ground, and then we just passed this massive herd of zebra. It was hard to even tell how many zebra there were. And then we come to the watering hole, and there's a bunch of zebras gathered here. We have some coming down the hill to the watering hole, but yeah, probably like hundreds, if not 1,000 or so zebras here. about 5:30 in the evening here, and we spent most of the afternoon there driving to our campsite, which was halfway across Etosha. And we saw some more zebras, some giraffe, we saw a red hartebeest, and a lot more springbok, but unfortunately we still haven't seen any cats, no lions, cheetahs, or leopards, but we were keeping our eyes peeled for those, and also we would love to see some elephants. But anyways, we've come to Halali Camp, which is where we're going to be spending tonight, maybe tomorrow night as well. So anyways, we're going to set up our camp here. There's a nice, beautiful campground, and from here, there's a little watering hole that you can walk to that's not too far from our campsite. So I'm going to head there a little bit this afternoon after we set up camp. We have just set up our tents at the camp here, and again, not too far from our camp, just like a quarter mile or so, is the Moringa watering hole, which is a place where you can see if there are animals, and usually the animals are gathering around water holes. So we have about 15-20 minutes until the sun sets, so I'm gonna just head over there and see if we have any luck seeing animals this evening. So yeah, let's go check it out. Up on this like viewing platform on these rocks. You must be protected from the wildlife somehow, but you're looking right down on this watering hole, and we have the sun setting right behind the water. And unfortunately right now it doesn't look like there's any animals, but I'll hang out here for a little bit and see if anything shows up. The sun had set over the horizon here, and I was just about to give up on the watering hole, and there were no animals here. And then out of the bushes came a rhino, and he quietly came down to the watering hole. And yeah, he's right in front of us right now. It's amazing. That was the most magical experience there. The sun had just set over the horizon. I was about to give up. There were no animals at the watering hole, and then there was a rustling in the bush, and I brought out my binoculars and I saw this rhino. I thought maybe it was just like a deer or an antelope or something, but then I look with my binoculars and I see a rhino heading straight towards us into the watering hole. One of the most rare animals to see here in Etosha, and we got to see him in this very peaceful, calm setting just 50 feet away from us, and he came down to the water, had a couple sips, and then just walked back into the bush. Very elusive, and it was just so beautiful, so intimate. So yeah, what a beautiful way to end our first night here in Etosha. So anyways, I'm gonna head back to camp. We're gonna have some dinner. There's a chance we could come back out here tonight to do some more wildlife sighting in the evening, but if not, we'll do a game drive tomorrow morning, and we're gonna spend the whole day in the park looking for more wildlife throughout the Etosha National Park. So yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Etosha. Last night we ended up going to the water hole after dinner, and they had it like lit up, so it was kind of cool. You could see the watering hole, but unfortunately we had no animals. And then this morning we also woke up at like 6 in the morning to go like half an hour before the sunrise to see if we would see any animals coming at the first dawn of light here, but unfortunately we didn't see anything. So anyways, we're gonna head back to the car now, and today we have a full day game drive. We're gonna be driving through the park, and we still have a lot of wildlife we're hoping to see some cats and some elephants. So yeah, let's head back to the truck and continue our game drive. Just been driving about 15 minutes this morning, and there's just this beautiful golden light, and then T-Lock spotted an animal off in the distance there, and it's a rhino who's been moving perpendicular to the truck, but now he's facing us, might be coming towards us a little bit. That was an amazing rhino sighting here in the early morning, and yeah, I can't believe we've seen 2 rhinos already, and we still haven't seen any lions, any elephants, or any other cats. So yeah, let's start looking for cats. Went a little bit further there, and we saw an oryx, which we hadn't really seen much of those in the park yet, but then right behind the oryx there was a fox that we saw bounding through the field there a little bit, so that was pretty cool to see. We've just been driving a little bit further here, and we got our first cheetah sighting. We see a mom and 2 baby cheetahs here just out in the grass. It's really beautiful. They're probably like 150 feet away. Alright guys, that was amazing seeing the 3 cheetahs there. We just saw their heads just like poking above the tall grass, looking around, maybe hunting a little bit. We probably watched them for about 15-20 minutes or so, but they weren't really moving, so we're going to keep moving and see what else we can find. But I'm pretty stoked to see our first cats of the safari here in Etosha. Alright guys, we have just driven out into the Etosha Pan, and if you're looking at a map of the Etosha, it looks like there's this massive lake, but it's actually this completely dried up ground here, and we've driven out into it, and there's a small little bit of like a watering hole here, but no animals. We saw a couple ostrich that are running off across the Etosha Pan here, but just amazing. As far as you can see, the horizon line is completely straight. So yeah, beautiful just being out in this amazing pan here. It is about noon here, and we spent most of the morning there driving along the Etosha Pan. We didn't see any of the other big cats or elephants that we've been looking for, but lots of other like zebra, lots of ostriches, lots of oryx, wildebeest. So yeah, just a nice little drive though along the Pan, and the Pan was just beautiful looking out over that just really calm horizon line. So anyways, we've made it to Namutoni, which is another little camp inside the Etosha Park here, and we're gonna stop for a lunch spot. I think it's a bit of a camp area, but there's also a watering hole where we can go and have a little picnic lunch and see if there's any animals hanging out at the watering hole. As I have just had my lunch at the little watering hole that's there, and you can see the watering hole just behind. Unfortunately, it's like the middle of the day, so there's no animals at the watering hole, but I came up, there's like this little white castle at this little camp spot as well, so I've climbed up to the bastion, and you have this amazing 360-degree view of the Etosha Pan and just a lot of the wilderness that surrounds us here. So yeah, anyways, we're gonna jump back in the car and we're gonna continue driving through the park, hoping to find some more animals. Again, we're looking for some big cats and some big elephants. So yeah, wish us luck on that journey, and I'll show you guys if we see any of those new additions to our animal log. Just had about a 15-minute drive or so from our lunch spot here, and we were driving by, we saw about 4 giraffes just walking across the horizon there, and then we've pulled up to about 20-30 zebras here. We have a herd of oryx in the distance, and then the Etosha Pan way off in the distance there on the horizon. Seeing a lot of sole wildebeest and individual wildebeest, but here we're seeing a herd of about 40 or 50 wildebeest just off the side of the car. We're just about done with our game drive for the afternoon. We're heading back to camp on the road here, and right about where we saw the rhino this morning, we see 2 rhinos. So it's probably one of the same ones we saw, but then there's another one, and they're just behind the bushes here, so a little hard to see now, but maybe they'll move around a little bit. Nice viewing, and there's a mom rhino and then there's a little baby rhino, and they're mostly kind of hidden behind the bushes there, but yeah, just an amazing sighting. So anyways, we just have about a few minute drive back to camp. It is about 4 in the afternoon here, and we have just gotten back to our Halali camp, and that was a long afternoon of driving. We didn't really see too many different animals, but we did stop for a couple of those like larger herds of zebra and wildebeest, and then again right there at the end we saw the mama rhino and her baby, which was just really cool. And then of course the rhino we saw this morning was amazing, and the cheetahs, and who would have thought here in Etosha that I've seen 4 rhinos and 0 lions, because last time I was here I saw like 15 lions and 0 rhinos. So again, with safari, you just never know what you're gonna get, and every time you come here, it can just be a completely different adventure. So anyways, we're gonna just chill at camp a little bit this afternoon. I'll probably eventually head back to the water hole in the late afternoon for sunset, just to see if we have any more wildlife sightings there. I just spent most of the afternoon and evening here at the watering hole, and you have to have a lot of patience to see wildlife here. I spent the whole afternoon, didn't see anything. Then I came back after dinner, and I started off by seeing like a springbok, a couple zebra, and then out of nowhere a rhino came to the watering hole, and he was at the watering hole for just like 5 minutes, and then I was about to leave after he left, and then 2 more rhinos came from the other direction and came down to the watering hole, and we watched them for like half an hour, and it was amazing. So yeah, very cool. And that takes our rhino count up to 7 rhino sightings on this trip to Etosha, which is just like blows me away, because rhinos are some of the most rare animals to see in the wild here, and we've already seen 7 of them. So yeah, pretty pumped about that. And what a beautiful evening. It's so quiet, you can hear the bugs and the birds, and then watching the sunset was just beautiful over the watering hole there. So anyways, I'm gonna head back to camp, go to bed. We have another really early morning tomorrow. We're actually leaving Namibia tomorrow, but we're gonna get up early and do another game drive through Etosha on our way out of Namibia. So yeah, I'll see you guys bright and early in the morning.